Hello everybody, SlimKirby here, and welcome to my end-of-year video for the year 2023. 2023 was a very interesting year of gaming for me. I started the year wanting to make a lot of progress on my video game backlog, in terms of my YouTube projects, and of course just general game completions. And while I think I definitely succeeded in some rights, with a grand total of 26 new game completions marked through on my massive backlog of games to play, on the YouTube front, it was admittedly a bit slower. However, in a year where I took on Mario Odyssey 100% and the most insane undertaking of all, a full year Animal Crossing Let's Play, I guess I can't really be too surprised by that. However, there were still a lot of very fun gaming memories and moments for me this year, and I wanted to take the time and highlight some of them for you guys. This format is going to be a little different from my usual end-of-year videos, but I will still feature my project rankings and the viewer project of the year at the very end of this video. I just want to cover some of my other favorite games that I played this year as well, and thought you guys might be interested in these stats as well. So without further delay, let's get this started as I have a lot to cover here. Before I get into any of the major accolades, let's get a few of the smaller honors out of the way first, starting with favorite video game randomizer. If you've been an avid Twitch viewer of mine over the last few months, this should not be of any surprise to you, as I've been absolutely obsessed with this randomizer. In fact, I haven't been this obsessed with a randomizer since I first started getting involved with Link to the Past randomizer, and while I did play that quite a bit this year as well, this was also the year I decided to take a bit of a break from it, which allowed me to experience and explore some other randomizers I've been meaning to try and come back to. However, I didn't expect to come back so hard to the Donkey Kong 64 randomizer. The development of this rando has come a really long way since my 24-hour stream from a couple of years ago, back when the only form of randomization was the game's entrances and loading zones, which probably only made it more of a mess than anything else. Now, you can shuffle golden bananas, blueprints, banana medals, battle crowns, keys, the random item fetch quest items you get throughout the game, heck, even the Kongs and their abilities and moves can be shuffled around too, making each and every playthrough of the game quite different and unique as you try to figure out where everything is and see how fast you can beat the game. It pretty much puts Donkey Kong 64 on the same level as a Zelda randomizer, and I think that's pretty cool. Also, the community for this randomizer has also been very prolific with adding custom music tracks to this as well for the music shuffle feature. There are hundreds and hundreds of songs from different games, modified with the DK64 sound font by the way, and that list continues to grow each day, which gives this rando a lot of personal charm. I've had a lot of fun playing this randomizer over the last couple of months, and I definitely see myself playing more of it in 2024 as well. Who knows, maybe I'll even join the next DK64 randomizer tournament that happens. Although, likely not, as I'm still not the best at this yet. Maybe once I get a time under the 2-hour mark, but we'll see. Moving on to our next category, the next game I'm going to be talking about is my favorite multiplayer game of 2023. Now, I should stress, this does not have to be a game released in 2023. In fact, I didn't really do a lot of multiplayer with games released this year anyway, so even if I did name a winner, it probably would only be by default. However, there was a game that I did sink quite a bit of time into this year cooperatively, and if my 2023 multiplayer experience was absolutely defined by one game, it would probably have to be Overcooked 2. I mainly got into this game and series in general by my good friend Bowser 2 Queen, or Bowser Girl as she's known in other circles, and I have to say, it's a pretty fun time. It's a fantastic cooperative experience as you and your playing partners try to live through the chaos of running a kitchen and fulfilling orders for your needy customers. However, if you thought a normal kitchen was chaos, you haven't seen the likes of what Overcooked can throw at you. Trust me, some levels are absolutely insane, but I respect the challenge of what the game gives you. and I think that's evident in how much time I put into the game this year. I completely maxed out my star ranking for every single level, including all of the DLC levels, and I'm about to freaking do it again for the all-you-can-eat version of the game, which is basically all of the Overcooked 1 and 2 content smushed together in one software. So it definitely had an impact on me. Not to mention, this game alone was my most played software on the Switch this year, and I can see it continuing to take in more hours as time moves forward as well. It's just that fun. For the last 4 years, I've taken part in an annual event called the Super 16, an event that not only tests my gaming skill, but also gaming endurance as I play through 16 different SNES games. I had a video on this event that I posted earlier in the year, so if you want to see more on what the Super 16 is and my experience with this year's event, check that out after you are done here, link in the description. But I thought I would also take this time to highlight my favorite game of this year's Super 16 list. Now, for this selection, I'm going to try and focus on games I haven't played before this particular event, because otherwise, this pick would easily be Kirby's Dream Course, one of my top favorite SNES games as it is. But there was one game in particular that I really grew a fondness for, and I wanted to highlight it in some manner, because it's not too often that a game like this has an impact on me to this degree, and that game was Hagane: The Final Conflict. Often declared one of the hardest games of the SNES library, I was honestly surprised how much I enjoyed this title. It was hard, don't get me wrong, and considering you had to play literally 80% of the game for the Super 16 challenge, you had to endure quite a bit of its claws and fangs. However, it never really felt unfair though, like what a majority of old hard retro games can feel like, and I think that's ultimately why I persevered with it. And after Super 16 was over, I played the rest of the game, and I enjoyed what remained as well. And now I can formally declare that I actually enjoy a difficult SNES game, and hold it in pretty high regard. Move over Ghouls and Ghosts, Contra, Castlevania, and Battletoads, this is the title I'm going to go to bat for. Let's talk about some other games I streamed this year and declare my favorite streaming game of 2023. Now, there were a lot of great games I streamed, and there are most definitely a couple of contenders I considered for this next honor. However, some of these titles were admittedly taken out of consideration because they would ultimately receive another honor in this video anyway. And once the fog cleared of all that messiness, the only game, or games in this case, that remained was the Portal series, actually. And you know, I think that's actually appropriate for this, because I honestly feel streaming these games made the experience more enjoyable for me. Not only did I start the year playing the Portal 2 co-op campaign with Odinspec on the Stat Game Marathon channel, I followed this up by playing both Portal 1 and 2 on my own Twitch channel for the first time, and my Twitch audience got to see my puzzle-solving skills as I tried to solve all the puzzles on my own volition without any prior knowledge of the game's content. Or at least prior knowledge of the puzzles themselves, as I pretty much knew how the game worked. Not only that, but also getting my reaction to the hilariously funny game dialogue along the way. That was also a major treat that I'm sure my Twitch audience loved. My only regret here is that I am unfortunately missing the final VOD of the Portal 2 playthrough on my archive channels. There was some weird Twitch error that occurred at the time, and unfortunately that part is now lost forever to the cosmos. Thanks a lot, Twitch. I also want to give a special mention to Pokemon Legends Arceus, as I've recently started playing that game on my Twitch channel, but I am clearly still a ways from being done with that, and didn't want to give an uncompleted game this honor. It's been a lot of fun though, and I've looked forward to every stream session so far. Before this video gets too long, let's start closing in on some of the major honors, shall we? First up, let's talk about my favorite remake of 2023. Now, there were two remakes I was really looking forward to this year. One of them was revealed a few years ago, but was unfortunately put on hold due to worldwide events, while the other one completely came out of nowhere for me. But I was excited just the same, since it's quite literally a remake of one of my favorite games of all time. If you know me and my channel, you probably know what these two games are, as I've thoroughly played them both extensively for you guys in the past. But which one was my favorite remake? I gotta hand it to Super Mario RPG. Yes, I love Paper Mario, and the original N64 game will always be my favorite Mario RPG, but this game was my first RPG, and seeing it with newly updated visuals, an absolute banger of a remix soundtrack, and even some new updates to the game mechanics and content, my god, November could not come soon enough for me. I know there have been a lot of criticisms on the game's difficulty, as it is definitely easier than the original, when it already was a pretty easy game to begin with, but I've already been breezily playing through this game for the last 25 years of my life anyway, and having an updated version of it now gives me another way to play this timeless classic. Also, I've teased this a number of times on my channels now, but I do plan to play the remake as a Let's Play very soon. When exactly? Well, let's just say you may have that answer very soon, but more on that later. Before I move on though, I do want to give Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp an honorable mention, or a runner-up reward of sorts, because although Super Mario RPG was the undisputable winner here, I did have a lot of fun with this remake as well. In fact, I actually streamed through both single-player campaigns here on YouTube if you want to watch. It was a great way to bring the Advance Wars series into the modern light, and I do think this will be my preferred way of playing these games from now on. So, solid work on that remake as well. Next up, we have my favorite non-2023 game I played this year. Basically, my game of the year that wasn't actually released this year, if that makes sense. There were a couple of titles that really had an impact on me. In fact, you could almost say that Hagane and Portal 2 were pretty high considerations for this honor as well, but ultimately I have decided to name something else as my non-2023 game of the year. And I think this year I'm giving that honor to Tunic. This game surprised me in a number of ways. On the surface, you'd probably think, oh boy, it's Zelda with foxes, let's go. But as you start to experience the game, you slowly start to see that it's way more than that, as it's almost kind of playing out like a Dark Souls game instead, as you try to survive the harshness and brutality of this world, as you collect tools, items, and upgrades to not only make more progress, but also to increase your chances of survival. This game is also probably one of the most brilliant games I've ever played when it comes to puzzle solving. I don't want to say too much, as an explanation of why could spoil the entire game for someone who hasn't played it yet, but let's just say that solving puzzles and figuring out this game's secrets was some of the most rewarding experiences I've ever had in gaming, perhaps ever. And that made this game an easy choice for my favorite non-2023 game of the year. Now, let's actually get to my favorite new game of 2023. This was actually a pretty big year for Nintendo when it comes to games, especially from series that I thoroughly enjoy. I mean, we had Mario, we had Zelda, we had Fire Emblem, and we had Pikmin for crying out loud. Heck, as I mentioned before, we even had Advance Wars Remake and also a Mario RPG remake, so a pretty stacked year for the big N. And I'm not going to discount any of the other systems too, as there were a lot of heavy hitters on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox as well, but I'll be real with you now and say that my focus was really just on the Switch this year, so don't expect any big surprises on this one. Another thing I'll admit from the get-go is that I also didn't get a chance to play all the big games from this year either. I know a lot of people love Tears of the Kingdom, but that was just one giant I didn't get around to playing this time. Maybe later though, and hey, it could always end up being a favorite non-current year game in a different year. We'll just have to wait and see. Let's start with the runner-up this time, and while this may be shocking to some, I actually don't have Super Mario Bros. Wonder as my game of the year here, but I will gladly declare it as my runner-up though. Fabulous platforming game, probably my favorite 2D Mario game since Super Mario World, and probably one of the most charming and unique looking Mario games we've ever had. Naming it Mario Wonder was a very accurate title, because it was definitely filled with wonder and mystery of the likes we've never seen before in a Mario game. Getting back to my actual game of the year though, I gotta give this one to Pikmin 4. This game absolutely knocked it out of the park for me, being perhaps the greatest culmination of each and every installment that came before it. The cave system from Pikmin 2 is back, but with massive improvements and to the point where they don't overstay their welcome. All the little optimizations and quality of life features of Pikmin 3 are here, and they even threw in some levels reminiscent of that game's superb challenge mode stages. And that's just the stuff they brought back, not even accounting for the game's new additions, gimmicks, and features. This game introduced and reintroduced so much, and it's surprising how little of it doesn't work. Honestly, my least favorite part of the game were the Dandori battles, and even then, they weren't bad, just kind of mid. Pikmin 4 was everything I wanted from this game, including stuff I didn't even know I wanted, and this is easily one of the best titles on the Switch now as a result. And now that you can literally play every single Pikmin game on the Switch, if there is any time to become a Pikmin fan, let me just say this would be that time. There is literally no excuse now. Do yourself a favor and play these games. And with all of that out of the way, let's move on to the YouTube projects. Now, I'm going to be going through these a bit faster than I have in years past, so I'm not going to have little clips for every single ranking, nor am I going to show any clips of these projects either. Maybe over time as this format becomes the standard, I can maybe structure this a bit better and spend more time on the rankings, but since we're trying something new, I kinda just want to get through this. Anyway, I only did 9 projects this year. 10 if you want to count the Advance Wars streams, but I'm not really going to count those. So once again, not quite enough for a top 10, but still pretty consistent in comparison with the last couple of years. Let's get to the list. Number 9. Mega Man 11. Number 8, Uniracers. Number 7, Bomberman 64. Not much to say about these games. These were obviously the shortest projects I did this year, so as a result, they are probably the most expected titles here at the bottom 3, just due to their short run times as it is. Number 6, Donkey Kong Country for the Game Boy Advance. Number 5, The Legend of Zelda: The Minish Cap. Moving up the list a little bit, these were definitely more enjoyable than the previous 3, but DKC was also kind of negatively impacted by it being a shorter project, but definitely the most fun of the short projects, and a great revisit of a classic game while also showcasing some of the unique GBA inclusions. Minish Cap was a solid game and project, really only hampered by how the game structures itself for 100% completion. It's definitely not the best 100% Zelda game, that's for sure. And because of that, it was definitely a hard game to organize myself with, just with how much there is to do here. Also, didn't really help that I got sick near the end of the project, which only made me get even more disorganized here. Number 4, Kirby Planet Robobot. Number 3, Yoshi's New Island. I actually kind of struggled picking a winner between these two, but while I consider Planet Robobot the better game, I do think New Island was a better YouTube project. Not to mention, I felt New Island had more funny moments and jokes throughout the project, which gave it a little extra push here. Still though, Planet Robobot was no slouch either, and I do consider beating the True Arena for the game to be perhaps my biggest 2023 gaming accomplishment. Number 2, Super Mario Odyssey. I knew this game was going to be a hard project to beat, as the 3D Mario playthroughs I've done for the channel are some of my favorites, and Odyssey is no exception here. In fact, I fully expect this to be viewer's choice, and if it's not, I would really be surprised. There were a lot of great moments here, and this is quite literally my favorite game on the Nintendo Switch, and I was really excited to play it again for you guys. And let me tell you, I fell in love with it all over again, reminding me why it's my favorite game on the system. It didn't quite get number 1 for me this year, but it had a really big juggernaut to take down, and even if it didn't, it at least gave me a lot to consider. And my number 1 YouTube project of the year is Animal Crossing. Now, while this project is unfinished and some would argue it shouldn't be declared Project of the Year because it's still ongoing, here's my counter argument for that. I've streamed around 250 hours of this game this year. And keep in mind, I started this in July, so this hasn't even been going on for half a year yet. That's more than the total number of hours I've played the other 8 games here combined. Not to mention, me playing the game is only half this project, as I'm also putting together the abridged videos, which is an additional hour or 2 process for each video as well, not to mention rewatching all the stream VODs to make the script for these videos. I've spent so much time on this one game, and even through the massive amount of work I've done for this one project, work I admittedly voluntarily put myself through, mind you, I'm not gonna lie, it's been a lot of fun. Yeah, it's a lot of hard work, and sometimes the sessions are not as enjoyable or as fun as others, but I knew that when I wanted to cover Animal Crossing that I had to do it in a very particular way. A way that would give the game the coverage it deserved without cutting it way too short or making it way too long of a project to consume. This project and the process for this project was my compromise, and I think I'm giving the game the justice it deserves. My journey of living in the town of Popstar is going to be an adventure I'll never forget, and not just because of the lengths I've gone to covering this project, but also from just the events and moments that have happened throughout this adventure so far. From my relationship with Cherry, to the Ava67 shirt memes, to achieving the perfect town, to all the other milestones I've reached, with still more to come, mind you. I don't consider this to be the most perfect project. Heck, if I were to cover another Animal Crossing game, I can already see myself making massive changes to this formula and this setup, but I knew it was a big risk and undertaking in doing this, and I really believe it's paid off and will continue to pay off as well, making it my personal 2023 YouTube project of the year. That's just what I think anyway, but what did you guys think? As usual, I asked you guys to vote for your favorite YouTube projects as well, as per the update video I posted on December 19th, and with a pretty significant portion of the vote, Super Mario Odyssey has been crowned, and I am pretty happy to see that. Not only because I knew some people would argue against Animal Crossing being included, and this way both games can have the best of both worlds, but also, like I said, it was a really good project, and I had a lot of fun revisiting this classic game. It is my favorite game on the Switch after all, and with this game now being completed on my YouTube channel, I am now done with 3D Mario. For now, anyway. The rest of this list is pretty much what I expected, though. I was a little shocked to see Kirby and Minish Cap score a little higher than they did in my list, but collectively, I'd say we were pretty close to the same marks here. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for my last video of 2023. Thank you guys so much for watching, I really hope you enjoyed the special, and I look forward to having more awesome gaming adventures in 2024. I don't think I'm going to hint at too many future projects though, just because I admittedly came up a bit short in terms of what I wanted to cover this year. There was a game that I alluded to last year that I really wanted to get to, but just didn't really have the time to. I will try to get to that this year though, along with a few other spin-off series that I didn't quite cover this year as well, despite prior traditions showing otherwise. There is one game that I would like to highlight though, and I'll say it right now, it's not Quest 64. Yep, I had to get that jab in there. In all seriousness though, there is an RPG that you can expect me to cover very soon. How soon? Well, not too long actually. Let me just finish with Minish Cap and then we'll be right back into some very familiar territory. And let me tell you, I'm very excited about that. After about 12 years of me doing my first replay of Super Mario RPG, I will return to it once again, but this time, the remake on Switch, for my first new playthrough of 2024. I hope you guys are ready, because it's gonna be awesome. Also, on the subject of 12 years, I don't know guys, I think I need a bit of a change. There we go. That's better. See you guys in 2024. This has been SlimKirby, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Later, folks.